And Lord, I'm just so tired of meeting all the wrong people. Every time I turn around, I think he's the right one. And I just don't know. Please send me somebody to share my life with. Because I'm tired. Amen.
Hey, sexy mama. I know you tired. Because you've been running through my mind all day. You want to go out?
Not that tired.
Hello, this is Vincent
And Valerie.
Woodard.
And today on Couples Pursuit, we're going to talk about
3 stages of marriage. The courtship phase, the covenant phase, and the commitment phase. Baby, what do you think about the courtship phase?
Well, the courtship phase is the first phase. And we won't be able to talk about the other two today because this is enough to talk about in one sitting. Basically, the courtship phase is where two people come together and they are spending time together, finding out if they are a good fit for a future, which is much different than dating. We can talk about dating later, but it's a little different than courtship because dating is not always with the intention of marriage. Sometimes it's just with the intention of hanging out, having fun. But as far as we are concerned, for the purposes of this video, we want to talk about courtship with the intention of marriage.
Right. The definition that I have, and it's really just pulled from the dictionary, internet. So courtship is defined as a period during which a couple develops a romantic relationship, especially with the view of marriage. And I think that's kind of, says it in a nutshell. There's so much more that could probably be added on to that, especially when we're talking from a Christian perspective.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of hits it on the head when it says with the view of marriage.
Yeah. That's the thing. When you and I met, I had been married. And I was hiding from life and everything else.
Okay.
And I literally had prayed, Lord, please don't send anyone my way. I don't want to be bothered with a gentleman because my heart was broken and I had a little girl and I was trying to pull it together. And when I met Vincent, I met him by happenstance. I was having a indoor yard sale, so to speak, and he was searching for an apartment and came by at the suggestion of a friend to see some of the things that I had. Well, he was interested in me and asked me if I would go out on a date with him, and I said absolutely not. I didn't say absolutely not. I just declined.
It felt like it did. Heck no.
I just declined, and
none of that.
Because I was wounded and I just wasn't interested at the time. I wasn't interested in anyone who wanted to just have a good time.
She shot me down, fellas.
Well, he says that I shot him down, but a couple weeks went by, and there was a nice older lady who had bought some furniture, my kitchen set from me, and he had a Jeep at the time. I asked him, would you mind taking it over to her house? And so that created an occasion for us to spend that little bit of time together, and we took it over to her house. And he was kind enough to take it into the house and set it up for her.
I slid in my number too. That's
how I got the phone number.
Notes.
So that's how we ended up having each other's phone number. And so I think maybe we got something to eat because Siobhan at the time said she was hungry, and I was like, oh, it's fine. He insisted on going through a drive-through and getting her something to eat.
Who is Siobhan?
Siobhan is our oldest daughter. My little fox. She's our oldest daughter. And so anyway, because he had my number, I let him know that I was going to be moving out of town. That's why I was clearing out my house before I moved. And he called me and he said, I don't know what it is about you, but I want to get to know you. I'm interested in you. And I told him off the bat, I was like, well, that's nice and everything, but there's something you should know about me if you're really interested. And at the time I was celibate, abstinent, however you like to put it. Obviously I wasn't a virgin because I was married and had a child, but I had decided that I was just going to cut off all of that from my life because I wanted a sincere relationship or none at all. And his response was, I knew there was something different about you, but I did not know that's what it was. And so with that in mind, he continued to pursue me, to date me long distance. I moved back to Virginia, stalked me. Yeah. For about a year, he would come back and forth to Virginia to see me when he would have time off work. And don't get me wrong, our relationship wasn't perfect, but it began with the intentions of me keeping myself to myself and really not wanting to just have a casual dating type relationship. And I bring that up because that let him know that I was serious about my life, my child's life. And so if he wanted to pursue me, he would have to do it intentionally. And so he did.
And I think that's so important, how she set the expectation. Not like she really didn't want to be in a relationship. I could tell. I knew that she was, either running away from something or trying to find something.
All
whatever.
Of the above.
It's so many things. But a man, a relationship. She had a daughter. She was a single mom at the time, and there were just so many things going on in her life. And I can understand her hesitance, her point of she didn't want to entertain a relationship, especially with the fact that she knew she was going to be moving away. So I intentionally, fellas, listen to me. I intentionally wanted to pursue a relationship with this lady. I wanted to spend time with her any way possible, whether it would be taken to the couch to the old lady that she talked about, whether it just be going out there get some fries or something or some chicken wings, just whatever. I wanted to pursue a relationship, and it was intentional, and that was my view. And was it to marriage? I didn't want to be with anybody else. Whether I told myself at that time I want to marry this woman, I know I didn't want to be with anybody else at that time. So that was our journey of micro.
It's a little snippet of kind of how we started, but neither one of us wanted to be married at the time. We had both been married, and we were both still working our way out of all of the things you have to work yourself out of when you've been married before. And he had our son at the time as well, and so it was a really interesting time because I was captivated by him in a way that I really didn't want to be. Like, he caught my attention. I was like, there's something about this guy. I met him. He's getting out of his Jeep at the time, and Vincent, you see him sitting down, but he's like 6'4", 6'3" and some change, and I'm like 5'3" and some change, and I'm like, he just keeps getting out of the car. And he's this huge dude, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, oh, he's large. That's the first thing I noticed about him. But my eyes were not on dating. It wasn't like, ooh, I'm attracted to him. It was like, okay, come and check out this furniture because I got stuff to do. Right? Seriously, I wasn't. And he's like, you want to, go to this Isley Brothers concert. You want to come? Absolutely not. The first thing I think about with the Isley Brothers is what? In between the sheets. Da-na-na-na. No. Okay. No, thank you.
And that leads us to how we talked about.
What you say next?
No, that leads us to before we talked about making this video, how people want to date rather than court the other person, and the difference between those two. So could you finish expounding upon it?
Well, let's talk about some of the things that, some of the differences between dating and courtship. Okay, dating, of course, you go out. It includes sometimes dinner, a movie, dancing. Back in our day, talking, taking a walk, hanging out on the beach. But often, almost always includes intimacy at some point. The expectation of intimacy at some point, which is why I told him up front. I didn't want to mislead him. This is not what I'm interested in. And so, for me, I didn't want to date, but dating includes those things as well. But courtship is more intentional. Once he found out who I was and how I was, it's like, okay, well, is that enough to deter him from continuing to pursue me? And it wasn't, because he would, like I said, he would travel from North Carolina to Virginia to see me, and we would spend time together, and I would go on to explain, the things that I wanted out of life. And he had to decide whether or not that was something he wanted. And And we went through phases where we kind of bumped heads, and I saw something I didn't like, and he saw something he wasn't familiar with, and I was like, I'm standing on this. This is what, this is what I need and what I want, and if it didn't work, then we won't work. And that was not saying that I'm better than you or you need to come up to my standard, but it really was saying I have a standard, because he didn't have to meet my standard. He could have just walked away.
Yeah. Exactly.
And done something else. And I didn't have to lower my standard. I could have just walked away. And so sometimes in dating, you just kind of get together. The expectation is that there's going to be, some hanging out, having fun, but almost always some expectation of intimacy. And oftentimes we get into the intimacy too soon before we find out if we like his hygiene habits, if we like her way of speaking, is she respectful? Does she take care of herself? Before we find out all of the important things, sometimes we've gotten into the physicality of it all. And then because of what happens, now we're always going to speak from a Christian perspective, a relational perspective. Once you've intertwined yourself physically with someone, it's difficult to backtrack.
Yeah, it's like trying to take yourself off of some sticky paper. It's like
yeah.
Really, you bond yourself together.
Yeah.
And then you start to find out those things that you probably could have searched for. Before you bound yourself together, but then you try to tear yourself apart. It's intertwining, like my wife said.
Yeah.
And to try to break that apart, and sometimes in our haste, in our anger, because we're so mad at what the other person did, that we found out that we just can't take it. It's a deal breaker, and we want to rip ourselves apart from one another, and the damage that's caused by just when
you leave something behind.
Yeah.
And speaking of leaving things behind, that's one of the things I shared with my daughters about dating. Not so much with my son, because it's a little bit different, and I guess Dad did the more of the talking with him about those things. But women are receivers and men are depositors, and so we have to be careful about how we allow people to deposit into us, and not just physically, but also emotionally, mentally, psychologically, all of these things that come along with being in close relationship with someone. So if you're dating, sometimes those things are your encounters are casual. And with courtship, your encounters are intentional. You take the time to have a conversation, begin to find out if you're even interested in getting to know that person. And then when the time is right, you find out what are your expectations? What are you looking for in life? Are you, not that I'm the person that you're necessarily going to marry, but are you in a mindset where you're ready to find your partner to get married?
Thought about those things?
Is that
even
important
had
to you?
A discussion within yourself about the things that you want, that you desire for yourself, and then also with the person that you're going to be married with. What do you see yourself? All those things come into effect when you are beginning a relationship with a person. Don't take this stage lightly. I urge you, do not take this stage lightly, even though it's beginning stages, and you're fun, you're getting to know each other, you laugh and joke. You actually should be doing that the whole time, but it's new. You probably might have been single, you might have been just came off of a bad relationship. I don't know what stage that were in before you started this courtship phase, but it can be new, it can be exciting, it can be really fun. And then, you don't want to say things that rock the boat. I don't really want to talk about his childhood. I don't want to talk about, his relationship with his parents. I don't want to, and so you try to avoid topics. And then you get yourself into, okay, well, he likes me. You get together, you have sex, and then you find out.
All the things you should have found out.
All those things that we should have discussed before.
And sometimes people want to dance around those things and not discuss them and not be serious, and we're just kicking it. And we are one of the things I really don't like is the term exclusive. When people announce that they're exclusively dating. Well, that's redundant. If you're dating me, you're dating me. It shouldn't be exclusively dating. Like, that's just like him saying, well, I'm only married to her. Well, who else would you be married to? Who else are you going to be married to? But But yeah, we if we don't take the time to, number one, get to know ourselves. What is it that we want, need, and desire? Then how is it that we can communicate that to someone else? And how can you expect someone else to provide you with what you want, need, and desire within a relationship if you don't take the time to get to know them? If you don't take the time to remove all of the emotional, physical, sexual energy out of the way and really get to know that person for who they are. And, you know, the first thing I mentioned was that, you know, dating is recreational and courtship is intentional. One of the other things about dating versus courtship is that the accountability that's there. If I meet him and I tell, you know, and I like him, I'm drawn to him, and we just start to talk, and in my mind I'm like, yeah, I think he might be the one. He seems nice. He has a son. He takes good care of his son, and you know, he has a good job, and you know, he seems like he would be a good husband. And it's like, skirt. He just wants to go out. He just wants to hang out. He just wants to have fun. He's not looking for a wife.
Yeah.
He's not looking for commitment. I don't even need to meet his son, because he's like, hey, she's cute. She look good. Let's go see where this goes.
That's right. You're not on the same page. One of you are intentional, and the other person just like, hey, it's the Wednesday. And we had seen past the day. Yeah, right. Just want to hang out with you.
And then so you can get disappointed by that, you know, and then at the end of that relationship, because it will come to an end because you're not on the same page, then the person who had the extended expectation is devastated, you know. Whereas if you're courting someone, then you know, okay, we are both looking for marriage, and even if you turn out not to be compatible, then you know that that's a plus, that you have gotten to know someone that you were interested in, but you found out this is probably not the person for me.
Exactly. And so hopefully you would come away with knowing that courtship is the intention, it's the where we want to end up at. That we're not just frolicking, we're not just, you know, going through the motions. And that's kind of why we want to steer people away from dating. Not saying you can't have fun, but dating is dating, but courtship is something totally different. They're not the same. And I love the way my wife put it, and she explained it. And I just want to leave away, give you a takeaway of 3 points. Maybe there's so many, but 3 key takeaways that I got is that first, we should be ready to court, be in the mindset to court, right? Yeah. And the second is setting physical boundaries. As my wife told me in the beginning, that she really was not trying to have any relationship, and definitely not a physical one. And she let me know that up front. And, you know, I guess she was saying, look, I'm telling you all the disclaimers, and you still want to come, you know, try to pursue me. That's going to be on your own time. And I don't want you to get frustrated, don't get upset, get mad, because I told you up front, you know, where I stood and what mindset I was in. And the third that I want to mention is to court with purpose, to court with attention, to make sure that you know what you're asking the other person to get into with you.
Yeah, that's good. And I just want to say, just for transparency's sake, when I met my husband, he said I was either running away from something or trying to find something, and I jokingly said both, and it really was both. I had a broken marriage, and I was running away from church hurt and all these other things that were going on with my life. And what I found out in that process is that what was keeping me abstinent or celibate all those years was not me alone. It was my relationship with God. And when I didn't nurture that relationship, those things didn't work. And so I just want to make sure that we don't mislead people. We have a child that is a year older than our marriage is. And it's that way because eventually, you know, when you stop leaning and depending on God to support you and you try to do it on your own, you'll find out that in and of yourself, you cannot be perfect. And so I wasn't. And so there were struggles that came along with that. And we'll talk about those things in a whole nother couples pursuit video, because people deal with that kind of stuff all the time. God restored me. He restored us. He restored our relationship to celibacy before we got married. And that's a complete Another testimony that'll really help somebody.
Yes, especially. And not saying we love our daughter. Daughter's a blessing.
Yeah.
But it's with the intention. We weren't ready to have another kid, another child, and here she go. And so we had to get ready, because she's coming. Yeah. We're going to invite her with open arms because we loved her. I loved as soon as I found the news out. Yeah. But once
I was dazed and confused, and he was like, okay, and God knew what would happen, but he gives us all of the physical boundaries and everything for our own sake, because what would have happened if we didn't get married? I would have continued to be devastated on my own, and now have had a second child. And it doesn't mean that that I'm this terrible person. It just meant that I had my priorities out of order. And if he had not been intentionally pursuing me at that point to marry, then that would have been on me, because he never forced me to do anything. And I think if I can speak for you, I'll say that me having a standard made pursuing me a goal. It made pursuing me more intentional, because I'm not just hanging out with this girl. I know that if she values herself, she values her time.
Yeah, it's like that space. Moment when you decide whether you want to go for something. Like it's not like jumping off a ledge, but the first thing that came to mind, it's like when you get ready to jump off a ledge, it's like, okay, I'm going to do it, and then you do it. And I knew what I'm getting into. I know how far down it's going to be. I'm going to go under. My whole body is going to submerge. Might be a little uncomfortable because it might take me a couple seconds to get back to the surface. All those things are going through your head because, you've already had the intention. I'm going to jump. I'm going to jump. Yeah. And with the fact that she, let me know those things up front, I still wanted to jump.
I'm so glad you did.
So next time, please stay back with us. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and please share with someone if you think it can help them. And come back for part 2 of this video. The next stage we want to talk about is the covenant stage. That's when you're the marriage stage, and I believe it would bless you if you're thinking about getting married or you're already in a marriage right now. That next video will bless you so much and so richly. So until next time, we love you, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.